Okay, so I have seen this circulating around. There is a new Daily Mail article that talks about an author and private investigator, a private investigator who just released a book about the Idaho 4 murders. His name is Ruben Appelman. And he claims...
Don't tell me he fingers Kohberger in a book that the case isn't even done.
Huh?
Does he say Kohberger's the guy in it?
I don't know. I haven't read the book.
Yeah.
But I guess it's J. Ruben Appelman. He claims that he, which was in an interview with Banfield, that he spoke with Dylan Mortensen's father.
Okay.
And in it, he says that she basically has isolated herself because of cyberbullying and the trauma and everything, and that she's gaming and getting help from some kind of spiritual organization. I don't know.
Okay.
It's a bit odd. I don't know what to think of it. What do you think that even means?
I don't know. He doesn't go into it any further in the interview.
This is a statement. She is in trauma therapy of sorts. She's getting help from the spiritual community, isolating herself, but she is stepping out a little at a time. She's gaming online with peers in a group gaming session. She's doing what she can without going into the public. So I understand her wanting to isolate herself because of everything that's been spread about her online. You have people speculating if she's trans. You have people making fun of her build, her height. Things that are just completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
And ridiculous to speculate about.
Yep,
it doesn't pertain
agreed.
to the crime. It doesn't pertain to why she may have not called 911 for 8 hours.
Because that's the only question really that matters.
That's all that matters. Yep. Shaming her about the way she looks doesn't have anything to do with anything. It's super messed up. And I won't tolerate it, and I don't like it whatsoever. And I'm sure that's why, you know, mainstream media, for the most part, besides the fact that there's like a hate campaign towards people who speculate, even though they speculate themselves,
right,
in mainstream media, while acting like they're stating fact. I get why she would want to go into hiding. I do understand that.
I get it too, and in my opinion, the fact that she cares so much what other people think, again, speculation, right? Makes me feel less like whatever the reason was for that 8 hours, it now has become a little sliver less like something guilty happened.
Her and Bethany Funk are 19 years old.
I know. And
they're super young.
And what's interesting too, right, is all the same arguments applied to Kohberger, you guys, with the fact that he doesn't have a history. There's no evidence of the behaviors that we see, like the story you just talked about. All those details and things and red flags leading up to a serial killer. None of those are in Kohberger, which it's very rare that we see, but sometimes that can happen. But they don't have those same indicators either.
Yeah, they don't.
No. So they're just as likely as Kohberger to be a part of something or whatever based on past. And past is a very big indicator for sociopathic tendencies, mass endings, and serial enders.
I mean, look at what we just talked about with Danny Rolling.
Yep.
The signs were there, okay? He came from a home where there was abuse, where, you know, love was conditional.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, he failed the 3rd grade, and they said he had lack of impulse control and an inferiority complex.
I know.
There were so many red
Signs
flags.
at 3rd grade.
A peeping Tom from the time he was a small child. Like, these things are incredibly important. The peeping Tom thing, like, I feel like growing up, that was almost like a silly thing. Like oh my gosh, peeping Tom.
Major red flag.
Oh my gosh.
Huge.
This person might end up being a serial killer. Okay? Yes. Like, it's such a big deal.
It is.
Such a big deal.
It is.
And I had no idea until I started looking into serial killers that was a major red flag.
I'm pretty sure more than 50% of them have that or the other one. What's it called? Watching people sleep.
Oh, somnophilia.
Somnophilia. Either the peeping Tom, where they feel like they're an outsider looking in on another life, whether it's some sort of sexual or non in situations. A lot of serial enders do both equally, but and then somnophilia being that attraction of being in the same room as someone and them not knowing that somebody's watching them. Again, a level of control and power in that situation, while the victim's unknown.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's an aspect of control there. Like, for instance, which I didn't mention this in the Danny Rolling when we were talking about the case earlier, but for him, it started out as watching these families, okay? And that's what I can't have. Like, he really enjoyed it because it was like, I don't get that at home. I don't have a happy family. But as he hit puberty,
interest turned to hate. Yeah.
Well, as he hit puberty, it became sexual in nature. He started getting gratification from it. He started being attracted to these women and wanting to watch them. And it became a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
So the peeping Tom thing, I think, is a huge deal, and I wondered about that with Kohberger. Like, are we going to hear anything about him possibly having been a peeping Tom as a child?
Right.
Nothing has come up yet.
Nothing.
Not a single thing. And I feel like the way these murders were done, if it is like a serial ender, I feel like they would have to have some kind of red flags like that.
Yeah.
Like a peeping Tom as a child or something. Just something.
Yeah.
I think
agree.
that's why the media hung on the incel theory, because that is a good indicator. The whole incel thing. And
be.
Hate for women. That's
much less likely, but it could be an indicator.
It can be a red flag, yes, a huge red flag. Like, obviously, there's tons of incels who are not killers or hurt people.
Absolutely.
But there are also those that do, and it can definitely be a red flag.
The Florida hot yoga studio situation, that's literally what it was.
Just like I'm sure there were kids out there who, peeped here and there and were little curious Georges and, looked in on people and then didn't become a killer.
Yeah, for sure.
But when we see these repetitive things, I see what you're saying. And they can definitely give you an idea of what to look for in a killer or somebody who would do something like this.
Yeah.
Dylan and Bethany, from everything I've seen, they seem like they were pretty good kids, for the most part. I mean, all college kids party. I'm not going to fault them on that. That doesn't make any of the people in that home, victims who passed or not. It doesn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't mean anything. And we've talked about the statistic before where in college, there is 90% plus students use during their college time mind-altering substances. So, even if they were high off their minds, and that's why that whole 8 hours thing, and they wanted to make sure there wasn't any around, anything like that. That's relatively normal.
Yeah.
That's relatively normal. Now, in the grand scheme of things, as an outsider looking in, you look at this, think, dude, the police wouldn't have cared. You should have called, right? Yeah, that's true too. Both things can be true simultaneously, where it's one person's lived experience inside, and then, there's our perception from an outsider looking in. And in reality, just what we all want the answer for is just that missing time, right?
So you know how there were those rumors that Dylan was out partying like only like a week or something like that after the murders? I can't remember the exact time frame that people were saying she was out partying around town. Well, her father's account of what she's been up to contradicts that a lot. I think I'm more inclined to believe her father, honestly, that she went into isolation than was out partying. But if she was out partying and then went into hiding after all the cyberbullying,
started,
which is also possible, like after she really was getting questioned and getting hate online, maybe then she went into isolation. What could that mean if she was out partying a week later? Could that be that there's a lack of caring, or could it be that she's a traumatized young lady who can't handle her feelings and is maybe making reckless decisions?
Yeah, I think it could go either way.
It could.
I think it could go either way, and either one makes sense either way. And, you know, changing the topic just a little bit, going back to the original statement, I'm really curious why he chose to leave out what religious or spiritual entity.
Leave it general like that, just a spiritual community?
What was the date of that statement? Do we know?
So this was posted October 3rd. I'll skim it I'll skim it real quick to see if there was a date.
Post Ruby Frankie? Where it might be a little embarrassing to claim Mormon right now?
That's a good point, because they're in the right area of the country for that.
They are.
And I don't trust no therapists after Jody that are coming from the Mormon church. If the Mormon church backs them, I don't trust them.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest. Like, if they could back Jody, they don't vet their therapist very well.
That was just such a big mistake that it's one of those things where, like, you got to build that trust back, because that was too big of a mistake to just be like, oops, sorry, guys, you know?
I know. So...
But this situation is interesting, and it's interesting about the book. It makes me want to read the book. And if you're watching, this book is launched, right? It's out? It's released?
Pretty positive.
Okay. So if you're watching and you've read this book, a Cliff Notes version, or know anything more than we do, please comment on this video and let me know, because it is very strange, in my opinion, that somebody writes a book about a crime while their suspect is in the process of either going to be convicted or proven innocent.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That's weird.
It doesn't have a date. It just says in an interview with Ashley Banfield, where he talks about her being dogpiled online on social media in the weeks after the homicides. That's literally it. And they obviously throw web sleuths under the bus, saying that web sleuths are accusing her of being involved in the crime. Other people calling her a drug dealer, among other names. I don't recall Dylan really being called a drug dealer. It was more about other people in the house possibly being involved and having connection to drugs. Maybe some people said that, but that wasn't really the running narrative for the most part.
Yeah, and anybody we watch, I've never heard that before.
I
that doesn't
either, but
make
it's
sense.
possible in early on, maybe when we weren't really paying attention. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't really feel like that was like the major running narrative that she was a drug dealer, but I could be wrong.
I think whoever could maybe be involved with it, if it ends up having some weight to that theory that we had talked about already before here, that the victims are most likely the ones involved.
Yeah. Just
based off my experience in that situation.
I feel like with the book, it is in poor taste. Okay, just being honest. Like the suspect,
unless it's focused solely on the crime scene and nothing else.
Yeah, but nobody's allowed to have those details.
I get it.
The name of the book is While Idaho Slept.
Yeah,
I'm assuming it's about the victims and the crime scene. But if he focuses on Brian
at all, that's a
mistake in my opinion.
Major mistake.
Major. And it is out. It's on Amazon for sure.
Okay.
I'm not going to recommend anyone go out and buy this book. I am curious about it because I want to know what he could even be talking about.
It looks like it could just be an opportunity to grab money. You
that
probably
is how
wanted
I'm
to
feeling.
be the first one out, right? And how can you guarantee you're the first one out with it is to do it while the trial's still going on, because obviously everyone tries releasing their book the second that the trial concludes. And I agree. I think that it can and will be taken in poor taste, and I don't think this benefits anybody. Anybody.
So,
but I'm curious what you guys think.
Yeah. So, do you want to hear a little bit about the book real quick?
Sure.
So, this is on Amazon, and this is kind of like their little description of the book. It talks about, so it says like the crime, this time, this date is when this happened. The killing like shook the community. And then they talk about how it dominated the mainstream media and how like all the police departments that were involved, all the LE that were involved, and the unending conjecture and countless theories blazed online in chat rooms and platforms from Reddit and YouTube to Facebook and TikTok. For more than a month, the clash of armchair investigators and law enforcement professionals raged until a suspect, a 28-year-old PhD candidate studying criminology, was arrested at his family home. So, clearly... so Ruben Appelman brings his terrible crime into focus. He humanizes the four victims, examining the richness of their lives, dissects the mind and motivations of the presumed killer, and explores the world of northern Idaho, a rugged, deeply conservative stronghold steeped in Christian values and American patriotism.
Any creators that I watch, I have never seen one dehumanize the victims. They're missing a really important aspect that most people in true crime and most of the general population anyways in the U.S. or the world with this case. The reason why they're so interested in this case is because the victims are so human.
Yeah, I think so too. But he claims this is his question in the book, okay? With so many millions of citizens armed by access and hungry to take part in a true crime hunt of their own, has the nature of homicide investigations permanently changed? That's his little question for the book. So this is about online investigators. This is about the crime, but it's also asking that question.
Yes, obviously, because the world evolves, and there's no stopping that. We're in a technological era right now, and everything has changed. Courts have changed. They should be putting every single court case, except the ones involving minors, on a live, GoPro that
broadcast,
that anyone can access and remove request for cameras being in the courtroom at all. Yes, things have changed, absolutely, and you can't sweep evidence under the rug. So absolutely. In my opinion, it very likely changed for the better, even though the change might be frustrating for law enforcement. Nobody likes change. Nope. Nobody ever likes change.
No, it's always so hard for the human race to accept change.
It is. Gosh, this is so strange, though.
Yeah, I feel like there's some kind of happy medium with true crime people, true crime junkies, web sleuths, because clearly the police totally reach out to us, when they want help.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely do. Like, I've seen it so many times where they come out and they ask the community for help because they know a lot of times that's the only way they're going to get something solved.
They did. There's videos and documentaries on Netflix right now talking about how the police reached out to the general public, and the general public have solved cases.
Yes, they have, which is incredible.
It is.
Absolutely incredible. So I think there's a way to utilize the public while also respecting them. Like, I feel like throwing them under the bus because you don't want eyes on this specific investigation, but you want help with this other one is pretty crappy, if I'm being honest.
Yep.
And making the mainstream media, who nobody trusts anymore, let's be real, like, they're the only ones who can present the facts. And anybody else online who's talking about it, they're sleuths and should be disregarded.
It just needs to be a situation where people, including law enforcement, stop trying to blame armchair detectives or content creators that take an interest in true crime, and blame the people who are being bullies, not the community that those people pretend to be a part of.
Yeah, because I don't see creators out here bullying Dylan.
No.
I see random troll commenters doing it.
Yep. And that's not a representation of the true crime community who cares about these crimes and victims, and that's the whole reason they want to do this. So
yeah.
I'm super curious what you think. I know a lot of our members take part in investigating these cases and topics with us. So what do you think? Your opinion is the most important to me.
Yeah, and, I have lots of questions of why it took so long to call 911. I have a lot of questions of what happened that night. I think almost everyone has those questions.
Yes.
The reporters, when they were initially told these things in the press conference, had those questions. It's not outlandish to question these things. It's not offensive to question it, in my opinion.
No, it's not offensive.
But I genuinely...
Critical thinking is a good thing.
Right. I genuinely hope Dylan is doing okay and getting the help that she needs to be healthy. To be healthy.
Me too.
Because I don't blame her for the murders at all. Like, I don't blame her for the death of these people. And she could have made a mistake. She could have, or she may not have. There could be a perfectly reasonable explanation that we just don't know.
I agree.
So I hope that she's doing okay. I hope she can get to where she needs to be.
You know how many times...
I just hope a cult hasn't started warping her brain.
Right. You know how many times I've seen people, and myself included, okay, so I'll actually speak on myself, where I look at a situation, I'm like, dude, it has to be this one reason. There's literally no other reason that I can think of that it could ever be anything else. And then the truth comes out because the one person that was involved comes out and makes a statement, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess it couldn't have been anything else except for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I see it all the time. So.
But, yeah, we definitely want to know what you guys think about this. I don't even know what to think about the whole spiritual community thing. I understand the isolation. The spiritual community, I'm like,
The isolation sucks, too, but, I get it.
Yeah. Hopefully she can find a place, though, where she can come out and not feel, like, hated. Because I feel bad for her that she feels that way. And I don't want my speculation or questions to ever come across like it's hate for the survivors.
No, we never victim blame, ever, ever, ever. And there is a way to ask I'm a salesperson, okay? There is a way to ask any question ever with the way that you present yourself and the tone and your intention, right?
Yeah.
And you can tell the difference between somebody who's trying to be a jerk or somebody who genuinely wants to understand.
Yeah.
And just genuine understanding is not offensive.
No, it's not.
But yeah, let us know what you think.